Hello world and welcome back to another Mekanism tutorial, where today we're going to be covering a bit more of an advanced way of generating power. As always, if this video helps you out in any way, shape or form, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps me out, and ring the bell button for more Mekanism tutorials in the future. So today we are going to be covering two very important machines when it comes to Mekanism. That is going to be the steam turbine, the industrial turbine, whatever you want to call it, and the boiler. Now the boiler has a weird funky name, thermodynamic boiler or something like that, but if I just type in Mekanism here just to get a look at it and type in boiler, you can see that in here it just pretty much says boiler. So we're going to be making the boiler today. For that, we're going to require many different items. We're going to be covering all of them. We're going to start off with the steam turbine itself though. Now for the steam turbine, you're going to need a lot of these steam turbine casings. Now these are very easy to make. They require just one osmium in the center and 4 steel on the sides. Now you actually get 4 of these per craft, which is very handy. Moving on from that, steel casing is going to be used for creating the outside and the structure of your steam turbine, but you can also fill in the walls with these structural glass blocks if you really want to. Now this is very similar to the steam casing, except you're just going to need 1 glass and 4 steel ingots covering the side, and you get 4 structural glass per craft as well. Getting into some actual components of the steam turbine now, you're first going to need the turbine rotors. These are going to require 3 infused alloys and 6 steel ingots on the side, and you will only get 1 of these per craft. Now depending on how tall you're going to want to make this, depends on how many rotors you're going to need. At the minimum, you are actually only going to need 1 rotor to make the smallest possible steam turbine. Now to go on these rotors, you're going to need some turbine blades. Now you can put 2 turbine blades on every single turbine rotor. Now this is going to require 1 infused alloy and 4 steel around the side, and you only get 1 of these per craft. So as you can see already, this steam turbine is going to require a lot of steel, so this is not an early game piece of machinery. Now to actually get power out of these blades, you're going to need the rotational complex. This is going to require another 3 infused alloy, 2 advanced control circuits and 4 steel ingots in the corner, and you only get 1 of these. This is going to go on top of our rotor, our turbine rotor over there. Now to turn that kinetic energy into electrical energy, we're going to need the electromagnetic coil. You're going to need a few of these, but you can only do this thing with 1 if you want. This is going to require 4 gold, 4 steel on the outside, and 1 energy tablet in the center. And you only get 1 of these per craft. Now to actually pump in steam, you're going to need 1 of these valves. You're also going to need another 1 of these valves to get out your energy. So you're going to need a minimum of 2 of these valves per turbine. You can add more, you can have less to actually make it work, but obviously you won't be able to get anything out of it or put something into it. You can't use the same block for both in and out. This is going to require 4 of these turbine casings and 1 advanced control circuit, but you get 2 of these valves per craft, so you only have to do the craft once. Now another block we're going to need is these pressure dispersers. I don't really know what the main use of these dispersers are, but I know they're involved in this to make it work. You're going to need 1 infused alloy, 4 steel ingots, and then 4 iron bars, but you only get 1 of these per craft. Now you are going to need a heck of a lot of in order to actually create this. This is a way of separating your steam area from your water area, and I'll get to that in a moment. And lastly, the thing you're going to need is these saturating condensers. You don't actually need these, but in order to convert your steam back into water to then reconvert into steam, you're going to want these saturating condensers. Now to get from steam to water and water to steam, it is a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you fill up your boiler and your steam turbine with however much water you're going to need and have these saturating condensers on, you will never ever lose anything in that system once it's full. Now to craft these saturating condensers, you're going to need 4 tin, 1 bucket in the center, an empty bucket for that reason, and 4 steel ingots. Now you only get 1 of these saturating condensers per craft. So ahead of time, I have built ourselves a steam turbine. If I right click on this, you can see we have an interface, but let's quickly go over how you actually craft this. As you can see, it's pretty big. This is a smallish one. This isn't the smallest you can make, and it's also not the largest. The smallest it has to be though, it has to be a minimum of a 5x5 base, but it can be, I believe, up to 5 blocks tall at the minimum. That would be if you only had 1 rotor in the center. Now as you can see, we've got however many rotors here. Let's see, we've got I think 6 rotors here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we've got 6 rotors, meaning we've got 12 blades in here in total. And inside of here, we can actually see, I've got it wrong. We've got 10 blades in here, which means I must only have 5 rotors. But inside, we'll cover this a little bit more in a bit. So let's just give a quick demonstration of how it works. We're going to be using here an infinite gas chemical tank supply. Sorry, this one isn't infinite. This is just a basic. This is just a basic supply. Now what we're going to need, as you can see, it's not pumping out automatically. What we want to do is change this to on. Now we've got steam flowing inside of here and things are starting to tick up. Inside you can obviously see how much energy we are producing, the flow rate of the steam turbine, the capacity of the amount of steam we can get in here, and the maximum flow rate. So we could get a maximum flow of 672,000 millibuckets of steam, and we have lost everything because, as you can see, all our power is completely gone. Now on the other side here, I've got all the energy just being dumped straight into here. As you can see, it still is making power, even though it's very, very, very slow in here. And we didn't even create enough flow rate for this turbine to even move, but it was still generating power despite that there was no movement. But up top, we actually have some saturating condensers. So on the other side of these turbine vents, if we shift right click on here, you can see water starting to pour out. Do this here and you can see all the water that we just put into, all the steam we just put in there has now been condensed into water, and we're getting it back out. So we could reboil this water in order to create more steam. But how about we put a creative steam on here? If we place this in here now and have this auto eject up, we can see that things get a lot more powerful, things get a lot more white, so you can barely see behind there that the turbines are now going, and we are generating a lot more power. The steam input is at well enough, obviously we're using a creative, but we are generating 672,000 steam to put in here per minute, so it is at max rate right now. It's got a capacity of 8 million steam in here very, very quickly, and as you can see, the internal buffer is creeping up very, very quickly, because even this ultimate energy cube is already 100% full. Now you can use this as a bit of a battery as it is, because as you can see, this generates all the way up to 1.76 giga forge energy per tick, or it can hold that in total, which is an absolute shed load. Now there are other things in here. As you can see, we've got idle, we can dump excess, and then we can dump everything if we just wanted to start dumping all the steam that's in here, but we're actually putting in more power. We're putting in more steam since it's infinite than we are actually dumping, which is why it's still turning, but it just looks clear now. But if I change that back to idle, it'll go back to how it's meant to look. Now let's actually describe what's in here. Tank volume 125. This is, I believe, the amount of blocks that are inside this white area here. That's the amount of blocks we can fill up with steam. Inside this is all about our actual flow rate here. We have 8 dispensers. That is what these pressure dispensers are inside. We've got them up top, and it's saying that our bottleneck here is actually the vents. For 8 dispensers, we should have more than 21 vents around the side. So as you can see up here, we've got turbine vents. This is telling our machine that we should have 21 different kinds of these vents, or more than 21. We have 21 at the moment. Inside we've got our production rate. We can see that we've actually got 9 of those electronic coils in here, and because of that, it's saying that we need more blades to actually satisfy these amounts of coils. But as you can see, that we actually have a huge amount of production. The amount of production we can actually get in this very small and not 100% efficient turbine is actually 959,000 forge energy per tick, which is a heck of a lot, and it actually produces just over 500,000, nearly 600,000 water per tick because of those saturated condensers. Now that is everything for actually inside of this turbine. You can see it's filled with power, so the flow rate is stopped. But let's actually go over how to build this step by step now. Now there is one more block you are going to need when creating these steam turbines, and I forgot to put it on the wall, shame on me, and that is going to be the turbine vents. Now these are created just using 4 of your turbine casing and 1 iron bars. Now this is actually going to get you 2 turbine vents in total, and this is going to essentially be your out point on your water part of your steam turbine. But now let's show you how to actually make this. We're going to make the exact same one we have here. It might look a little bit different, but it's the exact same, and we're going to start with a 5x5 base. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then everything else has to be solid turbine casing. The very bottom of your turbine has to be this turbine casing, as well as all the corners. They must be turbine casing. However, the walls can be anything from either valves. You can actually have a wall of valves if you so desired, but I doubt you need it. We're just going to have an in and an out, that being steam in and energy out. You do not have to configure these in any way. The block will just know it just by placing it down. and pumping in and out what you want. The walls can also be this structural glass, as I mentioned earlier. Now, because of this back wall, we're just going to have this as solid, just because it will look nicer then, and then we'll have everything else be glass, so we can actually see what's happening on the inside. Then, in the center of our steam turbine, we are going to need to use these turbine rotors. Now, these can go as tall as you want. Now, the biggest size you can actually make one of these steam turbines is 17 wide by 17 long by 18 tall. And when I say 18 tall, I mean the maximum height here. As you can see, this only has, if I turn this onto dumping, this only has 5 rotors inside. But it's actually a lot taller than 5 blocks, of course. It's actually got 6, including the bottom, and then it goes up to, let's see, this is actually 11 blocks tall, so we're nearly at the cap on this anyway with only 5 rotors. So really, you're probably only going to go to a maximum of 10 of these rotors if you wanted to, but we're going to just go with 5 on this one. Now, to go on your rotors, you are going to need your blades. Now, it's 2 blades per rotor, but you don't have to worry about shimmying your way up and doing it a bit at a time. If you look at any single one and just spam right click, you'll see that they all just get placed perfectly in the right area. And as you can see, they are just barely inside of this area here. If I placed one more on top and went over to here, this is now actually too small of an area, as when it spins, it's just going to break and hit the side. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not bringing too many turbines, because you could end up building the entire thing here, and then it just stops working, because as you can see, that is actually inside the glass, and it would not work if you finished building it. So let's just get this all up to the same height as the turbines now, and let's go on to our next section of actually building this machine. So to actually get any energy out of this, we are going to need to get this rotational complex, and this must be placed on the center of your turbine rotors here. They must be placed here, as this is what's going to give us our kinetic energy. Now, around this, we are going to need our pressure dispersers. We're going to have to fill up the entire area to completely separate the 2 parts of the turbine and where all the electrical stuff is going to be happening. Now, on top of the pressure dispersers and your rotary complex, we're going to need these electromagnetic coils. Now, you have to have at least one on top of our rotational complex. It must be on top, and if you want to add any more, they must also join the original electromagnetic coil. So if you place it here, it will work. If you place it here, it doesn't work, because there is no direct connection. It does on the corners, but it doesn't count with the direct center. So we could place this like this here, and this is going to give us actually 4 coils in our turbine, but these other 2 will not join it. Even though they're inside the machine, they will not join. Placed like this, they will now join. So for this, we can get a maximum of 9 coils. It's completely overkill, but you can absolutely do it in case you want to just maybe upscale some things in the future. Now, on top of these coils, this is where you're going to need your saturation condensers. Now, you don't need these. You can use just turbine vents if you want to, but if you want to convert your steam back into water, which you're most likely going to want to do, you're going to need your saturating condensers here. Now, lastly, we are going to need our turbine vents. Now, I'm going to place these all here from the electromagnetic coil section and up, and then everything else we're going to do a little bit more of a frame. So if we just go around here, cap off this area, it's going to look very nice, so we can separate the 2 parts of electricity and steam, and then we go up and fill up the corners. Now, on the top here, you can just finish and cap this off here. As you can see, we've only got 1 more level. If we wanted to, we could just cap this off here. They must all be, again, turbine casings again right here, and then we should get some red particles, but we haven't. What's gone wrong? I see what I did wrong. When I was literally talking about don't have this too tall because you won't break it, I didn't break that top block. So as you can see here, we've actually got 6 in here instead of 5, which is why it's not working. Perfect example that I did that by accident. So I'm now going to lower everything in here by 1, otherwise things aren't going to work. There you go, you can see I've lowered everything inside now by 1, and if I place this now, we get our red particles. Perfect. We've now actually got ourselves what we wanted. Now, something to say in here, we have a little bit of a gap. This is what I mean. This is what I was trying to explain. You do not have to have this be completely flush with the top. If we wanted to, we could just lower all these vents down a little bit here. In fact, we could just... In fact, we have to get rid of all these vents on the side here, and then have this be a nice clean layer, and we'll get a little bit smaller of a turbine, but it will absolutely still work. There you go. Get a little bit less max flow rate now though. And this here is our steam turbine that we built together. As you can see, it is different from the one that I built earlier. Inside it's got slightly different statistics, and inside it says, oh, we don't have enough vents, we only got 12, and for the 8 it's not good, but we do have the same amount of blades, and it's saying we need more blades. Another thing is inside you can see that even though we don't have because we don't have the 21 vents and that little bit taller of the amount of vents that we need, we have shaved off 400,000 from our original one over here. And there we go, this is 959,000. This one's only 548,000, and they're both the exact same size. The only difference is the amount of vents. There you go, I've added one more row of vents around the entirety of this thing, and if we look inside, we can now generate over 1 million FE per tick, or max production of 1 million FE per tick. And we've now got 24 vents instead of 12. So what we've done is double it, and we've got even more power. Same intake, more max flow rate, and more power production. But now let's actually power this thing up. Let's put our power supply on the side here and get our universal cable so we can plumb this up. And then we are going to actually get our water in here, and let's bring this all the way back down to the bottom here just to give it a quick demonstration. We're going to use ourselves not a basic fluid tank, let's get ourselves an ultimate fluid tank. Perfect stuff, place that there, and then we're going to need our creative steam, of course. Place that in here, turn this to auto eject on the top, and it starts working right away. And as you can see, the water has already been filled up. That's how much steam you're using. That's how quick things are if you actually get things filled up. As you can see, the top parts of where I've put glass in here, they don't actually get filled up because that's where we're separating our two sections with these pressurized dispersers. Our ultimate energy cube already full, and inside here we've nearly a quarter full of 1.6, what's that, 10 million energy? That's absolutely insane. But now the question is, how do we create enough steam in order to actually power this steam turbine? Because as you can tell, you're going to need a heck of a lot of steam and water in order to actually make this work. Now there's a couple of ways to make steam. We're going to show off one of them today, and that is using the boiler, but another way is going to be using the fission reactor, which we're not going to be showing off today, but in the next episode. So if you have liked so far, please leave a like and subscribe, and then ring the bell button for that tutorial to come out in the future. Now we're going to need some boiler casings. Boiler casings are going to require 4 steel and 1 iron ingot, and in this you will actually get 4 of these casings in total, so let's get a load of them. Next you're going to need the boiler valves, very similar to the turbine valves. These are going to require 4 boiler casings and 1 advanced control circuit, and you get 2 of these per craft as well, so let's get a bunch of these. Now the last thing you're going to need is the superheating elements. These are going to require a steel casing, 4 copper ingots, and 4 redstone, and you only get 1 of these per craft. Now you are going to need more than 1. You can use this with just 1, but we are going to need more than that. Now, here is a boiler that I've made ahead of time. Similar to the turbine, you can use structural glass for the outside, and inside there you can also see that we have pressure dispersers. Now, as you can see, there are sort of 2 sections to this boiler. The bottom section is where your water goes in, the top section is where your steam is going to be generated. Now, I believe in the past you were going to need some vents on the top part where your steam was in order to get the steam out, but I believe that has since been changed, or at least in my version of this mod, you do not need to do that. You are only going to need a minimum of 2 of these vents to start off with. So inside here we can see a couple of things. We have obviously got our frame, we have got our water, inside we have our superconductor heaters inside there. That is what's going to be boiling our water. The steam then gets transferred into there, and then we have another valve pumping out. So let's show you how to build this now. Now this can be built a lot smaller than the steam turbine. This has to be a minimum of 3 by 3 by 4, but it can be a maximum of 18 by 18 by 18. We're not going to be making the biggest today, we're just going to be making the same size as this. So just to keep it simple, and with the turbine, let's make ourselves a 5 by 5 base. Now this is going to be very similar to the turbine, as the whole base needs to be the boiler casings. And as well as that, the corners also need to be the boiler casings. And now this is where you need to decide how much of a reservoir you want your water. Now for us, on this one over here, we made our reservoir 4 blocks tall. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to have 1 boiler on the side and 1 boiler valve on the other side. Now these do actually need to be configured. We have got, if we use our configurator, we've got output steam, which is what I'm going to have on this side. Then we've got our output coolant, we'll talk about coolant in a moment, and our input. Input is going to be our water or our actual coolant, but we're not going to be discussing coolant too much today. So we'll leave this side as input and this side as our steam output, and then we're going to do the rest in our structural glass. Now inside of here, you're going to need to have a minimum of at least one superheating element, but I do recommend you add more. Over there we actually have, let's see, 9, 10, 12, I have 18 over there in total. Essentially each superheater is going to mean that you're going to require more heat, but at the same time it's going to be quicker to boil that water. So we're going to put this and make the exact same as over there and give ourselves 18 of these superheating elements inside of this. Next we need to separate our different reservoirs. So this is where we're going to need to get ourselves these pressure dispensers. Now the pressure dispensers, we can have this at any point. We could make this a lot taller if we so desired, but we are just going to have this here for our section. So now our reservoir is essentially complete. Now just for aesthetics, I'm going to cap this lovely reservoir with these boiler casings. You can have this out of glass by the corners still if you so desired. So that's now our reservoir completely finished. Next we have to make our steam reservoir. Now this, as you can see, there's nothing involved in here. You can just make this as tall as you like. So how about we make this just a couple of more blocks tall, just to have a little bit of a comparison with our first boiler over there. There we go, I've raised up the sides, and the top, as always, has to be a full amount of these glass casings. Sorry, not glass casings, boiler casings. Actually, as a test, let's see if we can do it with glass casings on the top. Hey, we actually can, that's pretty cool. So, as you can see, this is a lot taller. We have a lot more of a reservoir of steam than we do with the water. So if you right click in here, we see a couple of different things. It's pretty similar to the steam turbine, but there are some other things. So at the moment, it's got a temperature of 26.85. That is going to be the temperature of the biome. The biome that we're in is currently that temperature. If we were in a desert biome, we would actually get a slightly bit more heat in here, which means we would require less heat to be pumped in. And then we've got our boil rates. At the moment, we've obviously got no boil rates because there's no water in here to boil, and our max boil rate. So it's all 0 since we have no water. So if we get ourselves a creative water source, let's do it this way because we're not going to create a load of pumps here and chuck this in here. We do need to have our configurator in order to pull this out. As you can see, the water has now been pulled in. Now inside of here, we've got our water. We've got a maximum of 1.7 liters of water in here, or millibuckets of water, very similar to this over here. But now we've got obviously no steam being generated. Water obviously boils at 100 degrees centigrade or 100 degrees Celsius. So that is how much energy we need to actually pump in here. Now we discussed how to actually create heat a couple of episodes ago when we were tripling our ore, so I highly recommend checking that out. But that is where we use these resistive heaters. Now we are going to use just the one resistive heater for this, and we're going to use ourselves a creative energy cube, and then we're also going to obviously need these thermodynamic conductors. We pump this into here, and just by itself it's obviously going to be using 40, sorry. Apparently that was a creative energy cube that had no power in it, and now we're creating a little bit of energy. Now by its default we're using 40 forge energy per tick. Now this is only creating 36.35 degrees Celsius, but this will actually push this all the way up to the maximum of 100 degrees we're going to need, or the minimum of 100 degrees, same as we got over here. We've got a little bit more heat here. I don't know why. This is probably still climbing ever so slowly. I don't really understand that, but as you can see, this one resistive heater here at 40 per tick is giving us just over 100, and it's only giving us 1 millibucket of steam per tick. As you can see, over the course of this episode, it has been climbing quite a fair amount. So if you actually want to create any sort of good amount of steam in this, you're going to need a heck of a lot more energy. So let's pump this up straight away. Let's go for 2000 forge energy per tick. The temperature goes up a heck of a lot, but our boil goes up a lot quicker as well. Still, it's quite slow. Even though we got this amount of heat in here, 500 degrees C in here, it's not actually pumping that much energy. Now as you can see, with the thermodynamic heaters, we do not actually have to pump this into a valve of any sort of thing. You can just pump it straight into the wall like we have over here. And now we are at boil. So we are only at 0.33 over 100 degrees, and this is giving us about 60 millibuckets per tick, whereas over here with just 0.1 we're getting 1 millibucket per tick. So it's essentially anything after the decimal point, that's how many millibuckets per tick you're going to be getting. It's pretty funky. Oh no, never mind, that's completely wrong. I read that wrong. But as you can see, we're getting a decent amount here, and it's filling up very, very quick. But it's not enough to actually fill up all of this. We are going to need to generate so much more heat. This is where the fission reactor would usually come in. You can just use loads of resistive heaters, but the fission reactor sort of acts like its own boiler and creates a lot of heat in itself, and you can use that heat to pump into the boiler to get the boiler pumping even more, or you can actually generate steam directly inside the fission reactor, but more on that later. So inside of here we also have heated coolant and we have coolant tank. So the heated coolant tank and the regular coolant tank, essentially what this is, you put the hot in, this is going to keep it really, really hot, and as it's coolant, it's going to use up that heat, and then it's going to become cold again, and you have to heat it up. Now the heated coolants can only be heated up inside of the fission reactor, which is again where we're going to need the fission reactor in the future. But just so you know, the coolant that we can use in this is actually sodium, and we covered sodium also when we were doing our tripling, and sodium is by first making brine in this thermal evaporation block, and then separating it to make sodium and our chlorine, which is what we used over here. So instead of dumping our sodium, you can actually now start collecting it in order to create ourselves the coolant required for our boiler. Now let's make this really, really overkill. Let's go 9999999, maximum energy we could possibly get out of this. And as you can see, there's actually not enough water being pumped into here, even with creative energy. So at this point, if you ever actually were getting enough heat in here, you would actually need to have a couple of creative tanks probably, and a lot more valves to actually pump the water in quick enough. But as you can see, the tank is filling up very, very quickly, and we're getting our max boil of 5.76 million, which isn't actually our max boil here, as you can see here. I don't actually know how to get up to max boil. I think you would just have to wait for this power to go up an incredible amount, because we only got to a boil rate there of let's actually get rid of some of that steam. I can't dump it, can I? I tell you what we can do. In order to get rid of this steam, let's actually make another turbine for it. But let's first go over the statistics a little bit here. As you can see, we've got the max amount of water it can hold, the max amount of steam it can hold of 36 million, and we've got 18 superheaters in here. This gives us a boil capacity of 5,700,000. And here's a little bit of a graph of our maximum boil tick rate, but it's already at full capacity, so it's showing us 0 right now. But that's all it really shows us. It's nothing like the turbine where it says what's missing and how we could add more and such and such. But how about, just for the fun, let's just add one more superconductor and see what the difference is. Our max boil is now at 6 million. Just from adding that one coil, we've gone up, let's see, another 300,000, which is absolutely insane. So ahead of time, I have created here a rather large steam turbine. This is a 9x9 by whatever that is up there, but we have got 11 blades inside of here, and as you can see, they don't touch the edge, so this all nice and works. Inside, you can see we've got a max flow rate of 2 million in here, 2.6 million, which is absolutely insane. We can hold a capacity of 57 million steam. We are limited in things. We've got a lot more coils than we should have blades. Same, we have not enough vents for the amount of dispensers we have in here, but that's fine. We are going to have fun with this. We can generate 8.4 million RF or FE if we had this at max production rate. But let's just see how good this boiler is. Obviously it's completely full, but let's just join in our ultimate pressure tube. As you can see, all of it instantly gets sucked out of there and gets pumped into here, and we are actually we are losing power for this amount of steam. Oh, it looks like it's leveled out. It looks like it's leveled out. We are still only just about keeping up with this boiler, which is absolutely insane. And already, with all of these ultimate energy cubes, I added 10 of them here. They're already all full, and it's filling up the inside of here, which can hold 8.81 GFE. I'm pretty sure that's like 88 million RF, which is absolutely insane. Steam is all good though. We've got a maximum steam input at the moment of this, so this could actually still take even more steam, which would require a bigger boiler, as well as it would require even more water. But as you can see, if I took out of this creative water now, what's going to happen? Is there any loss in steam or water? No, there isn't. The water is constantly going back in, and then the steam is coming straight back out. But as you can see, what I'm saying, you do not have to have your steam out be in the top reservoir here, as some might say. Now this is generating a heck of a lot of power. We are gaining 5.32 million FE per tick, which is absolutely insane. And how much are we actually using in here? We're using 10 million. So let's actually see if we can get a net join in here. So we want 5.32. There we go. That's what we should be getting. And oh dear. All the steam's gone straight in there, but we're not actually condensing enough. All the water seems to have gone. What is happening here now effectively is all the water that is being pulled into here is instantly being put back into steam. So as you can see, this isn't actually increasing or lowering, it's because the water is still continuously going round, but you just can't see it happening. So I've quickly managed to drain the power out of this. As you can see, we have actually dropped our production rate here. We're now only at 500,000 here with a flow rate of this, as we are actually still not pumping enough water in here. The water's going up, but we're now at our temperature. So we are actually on a little bit of a loss here. We're using more power inside of here than we are actually creating, which isn't the greatest. But you will probably have other forms of power around your base actually creating this power. So you will probably have a excess of power from this. Obviously I'm trying to do a one-to-one here, but it doesn't really work like that, unfortunately. This is where you are absolutely going to need to have the fission reactor in order to actually create anything decent with the boiler, using also the coolants and stuff like that. It's sort of all a package deal. You're going to need the fission reactor, the boiler and the turbine all together in order to get the most you can out of the power. But as it is, you can fill up these ultimate energy cubes very, very quickly. And if you were to make something on this scale, you would need a heck of a lot of water, so many pumps, and far too much steam than you could probably make. Now, unfortunately, that is everything I have to show you today when it comes to the boiler and steam turbine. We do have a little bit more to cover when it comes to the boiler, that being the coolant side of things, but that is going to involve the fission reactor, which we are going to be showing off next time. So if this video helps you out in any way, shape or form, please do not forget to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out, and ring the bell button for that tutorial notification when it comes through. And at the end of that tutorial, there might even be a little bit of a bonus when it comes to storing energy, because these ultimate storage cubes, they're becoming obsolete very, very quick. But until next time, guys, take care.